Alright, so today we're going to be playing Knights of the Old Republic 2. I'm just going to be walking through how I typically play the game. This is a game I've played more times than I could probably possibly count. I absolutely adore this game. You know, you're going to see why, hopefully, as we play through it. So we're creating character. I'm just going to walk through this first. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create the character, explain my rationale behind the decisions I make when I'm creating the character, and then we're going to do the prologue, basically the tutorial. So, picking this character, because it's the one that looks most like me, with the longer hair, the full majestic beard, and what have you. For attributes, what I like to do... See, well, the class that I chose was Sentinel. That was the first decision I made. Didn't comment on it. Big decision. Should have commented on it. I picked Sentinel because they're very skill-focused. And skills are very important in this game. One of the lessons that you learn from your mentor is the importance of being able to rely on yourself and not necessarily depending on others who may let you down, or for no fault of their own, just not be able to help you. That's my interpretation of her words, not necessarily her words out of her mouth. So what I like to do is I like to drain strength, because strength's really not a necessary skill in this game. The only thing that it does is increase the damage dealt and chance to hit with melee weapons, including lightsabers. And I imagine unarmed combat too, and I'm not really sure how that works, if the finesse feats will modify those at all. What I'm saying is that you can have 0 strength and still have a high chance to hit with lightsabers and melee weapons through feats known as finesse melee weapons and finesse lightsabers, which instead of taking just your strength as your chance to hit and damage increase, will also take from your dexterity if it's higher. So with 8 and a -1 modifier as opposed to 14 and a +2 modifier, yeah, it's going to take from dexterity. What it also means is that I can reinvest those skills in something more important to me, like, say for example, intelligence, so that I can go into skills, do recommended, and have all of them ready in advance. And what I'm going to do actually is I'm going to drain stealth and pour it into repair, because repair has a higher chance, it means that you get more components when you break down items, and also modifies the items that you can just build straight away. Eventually I'm going to get the cross-class feat for repair, just so I don't have to keep burning needless points on it. And I'll eventually increase my intelligence to reflect the new skill that I have. So what I was talking about just a moment ago are the finesse feats. The two are basically identical, except that one refers to lightsabers and one refers to melee weapons. So what this means that I can do is I can, for the early game, have a really awesome blaster. By the time I got my lightsaber the last time I played, I think I had a really high modified disruptor rifle, which is just awesome. And it also means I have a higher defense, because I can pour more points into dexterity, which increases your defense. And really the only characters that I wouldn't do this for are ones like Mandalore, where they have to have heavy armor on them. So their heavy armor is going to restrict their dexterity, which means that all of their defense has to come from their armor. So you just pour all your powers into your points into strength, give them a powerful melee weapon, and throw them in the middle of the fight. Throw them into the scrim. That's a good way to play those characters, in my opinion. Now, typically when it comes to feats, I'm incredibly indecisive, but more so with KOTOR 1 than 2. KOTOR 2 allows a little more flexibility in playstyle, and mostly in the ways I just mentioned. With KOTOR 1, I like to take empathy first. The increased treat injury means that you'll be able to survive longer in a fight. Your med packs do a little more health. And the persuade means that you can get out of some fights, and you get a little more credits from the huts and whatever from the duels and the bounties returned on Terrace. Really, by the end of the game, that's kind of making mountains out of molehills, but early on, it actually can make a fair amount of difference. However, in this game, I'm going to take Gearhead, because it's all about the skills in this game, and that gives you the most important skills. Name's going to be my channel, or at least how I'm going to refer to myself on the channel. Okay, and we're off. So, this is one of my favorite games. No, this is not one of my favorite games. This is my absolute most favorite game of all time. My brother and I got it when we were kids, and we've been not regularly playing it, but every now and then we'll pick it up and spend, I don't know, 40 to 80 hours on a playthrough. We've got a lot of files that we started, got to the end of the first level, and then gave up on because we got bored and we just wanted a little bit of nostalgia. But really, if you can get invested in the game, it is an absolute joy. I've talked to a lot of friends lately, and I've been desperately trying to get somebody to talk to about this game. So, here we go. I'm finding people to talk to about it. A lot of people don't like the D20 style role-playing mechanic as translated into a computer, but really I find this to be a really great way to explore that mechanic. The feats make it so you don't forget anything, as opposed to when you're trying to keep track of an unwieldy character sheet. You're like, okay, so I got that buff for this thing, that buff for that feat, these 2 debuffs. I'm fairly certain I need this many die. Now, the game handles all that for you, and it means that the fights don't take 3 hours to kill 3 Gamorrean guards. It's a lot faster, a lot more expedient, and, in my opinion, it's much more enjoyable. So what this game does very well, in my opinion, is it sets a good pace, and it sets good tone. It's very good at setting tone. Largely that's due to its extraordinary soundtrack. John Williams did not do it, but the Knights of the Old Republic franchise, including the Old Republic MMO, did an excellent job of filling his shoes. It didn't have quite the high profile that stuff like The Force Awakens or Rogue One, coming up soon, will have, and so they need to hire more professional people than whoever did these soundtracks. Not to disparage the people who made these soundtracks. They're incredible. They did an excellent job. I cannot rave about them enough, but the public eye does not necessarily care about talent. They care more about names. So, the setting is done very well. The tone is excellent. The tutorial grinds it all down to a halt and absolutely kills it for me. It's slow, it's boring, it's very tedious, and I'm going to go through it anyway because misery loves company. I am going to skip the dialogue, though. I'm not going to skip this part. This is actually narrative stuff. I'm not going to skip any narrative stuff. I'll skip utility stuff that I know by like the back of my hand. I can explain it if for no other reason than to fill time when I need to be talking about stuff. I may want to actually mute the dialogue or reduce it a little, but that's the point of this test, is to see exactly how high my volume is as opposed to the game volume. Please tell me my mic is on. Thank God, I think my mom turned it off the other day. Yeah, so that's part of the purpose of this test, is to see how it comes out, to see how well I can manage talking over the game for 10 to 20 to hopefully no more than 20 minutes at a time. And kind of, you know, get out of my head the things that I say to myself all the time while I'm playing this game. I like to think I'm funny and insightful. Let's see if the internet agrees. I'm sure they won't. So, despite the fact that, as I've said, I've played this game through dozens of times at the very least, I'm going to make lots of dumb mistakes, and I'm going to forget about things. So, you know, I apologize in advance. This game is very fun, like I've said, but there are certain moments that I want to bash my head in. I want to bash my own head in when I'm sitting at a Foot Locker trying to bash it open and just missing or doing 1 damage over and over and over again. I lose my mind. It drives me crazy. Fortunately, because of my high investment in skills, I will never have to bash another container open again if I'm lucky at all. And the powers that I give myself through the Force will reflect my dedication to skills. Well, it's also reflective of my dedication to the light side when I play these games, but I'm getting very far ahead of myself. Right now I'm just playing a utility droid. And this was a very good decision to open the game by playing as T3M4 before you introduce the plethora of new characters. You know, you begin by introducing the game through the eyes of a beloved character from KOTOR 1. Between R2-D2, T3M4, and BB-8, the Star Wars fandom seems to have a propensity for loving non-anthropomorphic, unintelligible utility droids. I don't know why, but I don't blame him. I was just at my friend's house the other day, and he got one of those BB-8 droids that you can control on your phone for his birthday, and it's adorable and hilarious, and I love it. It's great. Yes. All these tips I know how to play the game. I'm going to be talking about how I know how to play the game, but I'm not going to read the tips. I'm not that boring, I don't think. And so I need a mine to open that. Mines are up on the top. Just gotta do this real quick. Honestly, I'm not sure if I need to do this to complete the tutorial. Logically, you'd have to, right? I mean, the tutorial starts out by saying you're in critical condition and will die if you don't receive help. But I feel like I didn't start actually reviving the player character until later. Maybe that's just my bad memory. That's entirely plausible. My memory's not great. Slice the system. Access security doors. I'll do that later, actually. Solo mode off, and we are going up. Yeah, I just did this and forgot to record because I'm a stupid person, and brain doesn't always work sometimes. So I'm gonna make fewer mistakes this time than I did on the actual recording. I'm gonna try to not do that very often. Re-record twice. I mean, not make dumb mistakes. Dumb mistakes are funny. I want to make them. I want it to be organic. I want it to make sense, but I'm not going to drag out the game longer than I absolutely have to. Like I said, I want this to be organic. I want it to be real. I want it to be honest. I feel like I sound like a millennial pastor when I'm talking like that, but honestly, it's true. Those are the best way I have to say it. And that's how I'm going to say it. So one of the mistakes I made when I first played through this, not 20 minutes ago, was I ignored this exposed wiring. I walked up to it, clicked on it, saw I needed to use a part, didn't read the dialogue, and then just walked away. What that does is it opens a door that you can't open any other way, and there's some decent loot on the other side. I just ignored it like a freaking moron. So I did that correctly this time. But hopefully I'll make dumb mistakes like that in the future, and everyone will get to laugh at me and call me an idiot and hurt my feelings. You gotta love the internet. Alright. Lay a mine. Run away. You know, again, this is another one of those things where I'm not sure if you take damage by not running away from the mine after you've placed it. That's another one of those things where logically you would of course take damage from it. And if the game plays by actual logic, then yes, you would, but that's not necessarily the case in a video game. And I think the game tells you to run away as soon as it happens, but I don't freaking know. I always ran away. Wait, he's not on the inside. Get on the inside. Security doors. Close. Open. This is kind of a fun mechanic, just because it makes you think. Alright, so I'm going to rant a little real quick. Real early on, this is going to happen a fair amount. Workbench, right? Very fun. KOTOR 1, it was very straightforward, very simple. The only thing you had to think about was who you gave the best weapon, because it only had 3 slots, and there was no variation within the 3 slots that you could place the upgrades into. This is a lot different. There are gradations of power between the upgrades that you can put in the weapons. There are different types of powers that you can give it, and I'll get into the philosophies behind my decisions on each one of the powers and as they relate to the characters later. But right now, all I'm going to complain about is the fact that they learn about using the workbench as number 1. And you can go through all of these. It's a lot of stuff that you're just going to figure out on your own, and then go to number 2. But number 1 never goes away. Never ever goes away. Even when they add a different number 2 or number 3 for upgrade items, never goes away. I cannot tell you how many times I click on it, and it drives me absolutely up the wall. Alright, so some goodies here, some parts. It's always good to have just as many parts and computer spikes as you can possibly get. Opens up a lot of options, gives you a nice, healthy experience. There's a part in KOTOR 1, actually, where this is really a dumb thing to do, but you know, it gives you more experience, where it's the very last part before you leave the Endar Spire, and there's a bunch of Sith on the other side of a door, and you have the option of doing the suicidal attempt of trying to kill them all yourself. You can overload a power conduit and electrocute them to death, or you can reprogram a disabled security droid and have him kill all the Sith, or you can do all 3. And if you do all 3, you get the most experience out of it. So for me, that's always the choice that I make. And hey, look at this. The cutscene actually worked this time. Last time I recorded it, it did not work. So I'm very glad that that's not going to make a habit out of this. I was actually afraid that was the recording software the first time, which wasn't running. Not that I knew that at the time, of course. I wouldn't have been bothered. I wouldn't bother doing all this. So I'm glad to see that the recording software is not interfering. And if anything, the logical correlation is that it's making it work right. That's complete nonsense. But that's how the human brain makes connections. So this is another great scene. It introduces the HK-50 units, which become a massive pain in your side throughout the entire game. But if memory serves, that little cargo hold right there is where HK-47 resided during KOTOR 1. So it's great paralleling. to stick HK50 in there for the moment that we're introduced to him. Them, I suppose. And there we go. That's the tutorial. I'm going to let this scene run here. I'm going to save, and then I'm going to sign off and quit. Yeah, you know what? That's exactly how I look. It's just that buff. Not overweight or obese at all. Nope. Definitely not obese. Same dreams, too. With old women telling me to wake up. Really, the game gets me, is what I'm saying. This game has a lot of great moments, and that shot right there, I think, is one of them for me. You don't know it at the time. I'm just going to spoil it right now because we're going to find out in the next video that those miners around you, I think the 4 of them, they're dead. Because they were overloaded with sedatives, which you managed to survive because you used to be a Jedi. Don't tell nobody, but you used to be a Jedi. And then you wake up, and it's off to the races. Like I said before, this is my absolute most favorite game of all time, so I'm going to be doing a full playthrough of this, unless people start screaming at me to, oh god, please stop, it's boring as sin. Oh, you know, I had a really funny boring as sin joke in the last recording. I'm sad I couldn't work it in this one, but whatever. Yeah, so I'll be talking about the philosophy, the game style, the game, how I like to play the game. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. It'll be good to have to just talk about the game for a while to an audience. Even if it's an audience of like 50. I think I could scrounge up 50 people to watch these videos. So here we go. Yeah. Test recording 1. Okay. And we're off. This is the cartographer signing off.